What's going on, everybody? This is Island Hopper TV, and today we're going to talk about the best countries and the worst countries that I've ever visited. And so I'm going to tell the best countries first. If you're one of those types of people who want to hear the negatives or my downside reviews of those countries, which I never really share on this channel, but today I decided to do so. Uh, so if you're excited for live streams and you want more live streams, smash up the likes, pump up the likes button. Let's get it out there to a large audience, and then I'll do more live streams. I'm currently back in the USA for a short period of time, just recalibrating, recharging, and getting some new supplies so I can go back out again. Every once in a while, I need to recharge, of course. But yeah, let's pump up the likes and get into it. So the best way that I can tell you my favorite countries or the best countries right now, because, dude, the list changes. Okay, a lot of what happened before 2020 is changing post 2020, right? So places that were great are not so great. Places that weren't so great are really up and coming. So that's what we're going to give you the first list of my favorite places. And those are places that you'll notice I keep going back to. And I'll give you my reasons for each one of those places why I keep going back there. So we'll start in the Americas. There are some countries that I like here and that I want to keep going back to if I'm looking for a vacation. So I like Mexico, but it's a little bit dangerous. Okay. But there are places in Mexico that I like. I'll just give it to you like that. So Mexico's like, it's just a little bit dangerous. They do have that cartel underbody, and you do feel that in the streets sometimes. But Playa del Carmen is an awesome place to go. Baja, California, I really like that down there in Cabo, just southern Baja, really nice. Just wish it was a little bit safer, but those are some really beautiful places not too far from my home in the United States. Okay, but going a little bit further south, I do like Costa Rica. Costa Rica is in my top 5. It's in my short list. The first time I went to Costa Rica, I didn't really like it. I didn't have a rental car. I couldn't get around. It was difficult to get around. But I unlocked Costa Rica when I got a rental car. If you go to Costa Rica, get a rental car and get ready to go all around the country, from La Fortuna, Monteverde, all the way down to Santa Teresa and Nicoya, Samara, Tamarindo, go up to Papagayo, all those places. You'll walk away from that trip saying, like, yeah, Costa Rica is awesome. I would say so. It has gotten a bit expensive, which keeps it back from being my number one place. If you wanted to go to a place similar to that, Panama. Panama is very much like Costa Rica. Actually, Panama City is a better city, more cosmopolitan than San Jose. San Jose is not the place you want to be. The first thing you do when you get to Costa Rica, you land in San Jose, you leave San Jose. You could spend one night there, but don't spend too much time in San Jose. That's not why you go to Costa Rica, okay? Panama City, you could go to Panama City and you can actually hang out in Panama City base camp. You can go to Bocos del Toro from there by plane and maybe spend a couple days and then go back to Panama City. You can also base camp from Panama City and go into the jungles around there to the north, 2 hours, 3 hours. You can go to the Panama Canal, and then you can go towards San Blas. They got some beautiful islands on the Caribbean side, more beautiful than the Costa Rica Caribbean side. So that's something to take into consideration. The up-and-comer in that area is going to be Nicaragua. Now, we're going to go further south into South America. And in South America, the most underrated place, I would say, or the one that could get more attention, would be Peru. Every time I go to Peru, I really like Lima. Lima, I stay in Miraflores, and I go to Cusco. And there's so much to see in Peru. Remember, the headwaters for the Amazon are actually in Peru. So Machu Picchu, Cusco, there's lots of history in that whole area. There's Lake Titicaca. You can even do a day trip over into Bolivia to see Punapunco. I mean, there's a lot of history in that area of Peru. You could go to the other side of the Andes and end up in the Salvo, which is the jungle. Now, Chile. I want to love Chile, but Chile, just something about it holds it back. That's probably why it's not as famous as it could be. Even Argentina, some people love Argentina. Okay, but I'm not going to say it's on the worst or it's on the best, but in South America, my favorite country down there right now would be Peru. Moving over to Europe. My favorite country in Europe, I would have to say, is Switzerland, and a number 2 would be Greece. Switzerland is much more expensive than most places in the world, and it's even more expensive than most places in Europe. It's up there with the UK. I mean, you could probably get over to Luxembourg. The other one that is not as expensive, but it's very nice, is Greece. Greece because of the islands, not Greece because of the mainland. Athens, typically 2 to 3 days in Athens, maximum. I don't really see a reason to stay in Athens too long. But you want to go out to Santorini, Mykonos, Eos, Rhodes, Crete, all that. That's why you go to Greece, to the islands, the ones in the Aegean. They call them the Cyclades. Now, the one that is up and coming, and it's becoming a little bit too popular for its own good, is Croatia. That one's amazing. And you also have Italy. I'm not going to put Italy above Greece or Switzerland. Switzerland is just amazing because of the Alps. The Alps are some of the most pristine countryside you will see anywhere else in the world, and it's in really good shape. They've blended in the modern engineering really nicely. Like I said, I'm going to tell you about the worst countries at the end. Don't worry, I'm getting there. I'm just telling you about the positives first, okay? I see you guys. We got Joshi, we got DRK, we got Anonymous. How many countries have you been to? I've been to 90 countries. Thank you for asking me that. I was going to say that. Did you enjoy Japan? I did enjoy Japan. Japan's expensive. It's a very strict country, you know. It's you feel like you have to always be doing the right thing because Japanese are very disciplined people. If you're an undisciplined person in Japan, it's not a good thing because Japanese are very disciplined. I'm not saying that I'm not disciplined. I'm just saying that they have a lot of rules, uh, and I don't like to go to a country and upset people. So if you go into an executive lounge in, say, the Marriott in Tokyo or something, be ready to dress up and be very, be on your best behavior. Be professional, be polite, be very, don't talk too loud, all that stuff. Anyway, it's not because I want to go to a place and act a fool or act belligerent, but I'm just saying Japan, etiquette is a huge thing. It's very important there, and you have to respect it. Otherwise, you shouldn't even go. I mean, if you have tattoos, technically, you're not even supposed to go into the onsen. I'm just giving you an idea. And you know how Westerners are with tattoos; they love tattoos. Um, yes, I do have to try the north of Spain. I've only been to Barcelona, Valencia, the islands like Ibiza and Mallorca and Madrid. But yeah, I do need to try the north of Spain. I forgot the name of that place, Alawanda or something like that. Thanks to 8 people who smashed up the likes. We're going to try and do more live streams because YouTube's saying that people like live streams. I mean, let me know if you guys like them. But back to the list. So we're moving over towards Asia. Now, I do want to say, hands down, I've got some favorites over in Asia. Thailand. The main reason is it's affordable and quality is good. The downside with Thailand that is becoming a big issue, it's getting too popular for its own good. Places like Koh Samui, which were a place you could go to chill and live a laid back lifestyle, are now becoming overwhelmed. And I don't see how they have enough infrastructure to support all that sewage. So swimming in the ocean could be something, that's a problem there. But last time I went to Thailand, I went all around Thailand to the places that tourists don't go, and those are still cool places. So Thailand for sure. Going down that Malaysian peninsula to places like Chumphon, you could go over towards Koh Phangan, which is not Koh Phangan. It's different. It just sounds similar. Going to the southern islands, Koh Mok, Koh Cradon. You have Koh Nai. So many islands down south. Koh Lipe, which has gotten very famous. Thailand's still amazing. I also do like Philippines. Still affordable, friendly people. It gets a lot of rave reviews as well. I mean, those are good. The one that's up and coming in my place, or a place that that's growing on me, is Malaysia. Malaysia is still very affordable, and it's modernizing faster than any of those places. So the one that's becoming like the Asian tiger is Malaysia, especially on that side where where Kuala Lumpur is. Borneo is still a little bit behind, and I haven't quite got out there to explore it fully. My thoughts on Laos. Laos is up and coming, but it's not Thailand. It's not on that level. I'll give some thoughts on it. There's still some things that can happen in Laos that won't sit well with you as a tourist. you're not going to get the same kind of treatment. Actually, you almost get the impression in Laos that they don't even want you there. They don't go out of their way to do customer service, but that could change. Lao has a lot of potential moving forward, and I did like Lao. If you saw my videos from Lao on Island Hopper TV travel highlights, you can watch those. Oh, you watched the Maui videos? Yeah, I miss Maui. I'm thinking about going back over there actually. So Asia, I would say Malaysia. I'm not the biggest fan of Vietnam. I need to do more. Everyone loves Vietnam, but I don't know. I've had a lot of. I would say I like the south of Vietnam more than the north, and that's has nothing to do other than just experience. I mean, I would say the north is probably more beautiful, but the south is a little bit more friendly. And for me, I think I like to be around friendly people more than I care about the scenery. I don't know. That's honestly what I feel. Taiwan is nice as well, but doesn't make my short list. Now, if we go towards Africa, the places that I have not been, but I've heard great reviews and are on my bucket list. This is just a bucket list. The places in Africa that I want to go are South Africa, Tanzania, Kenya, Namibia. Those are like the four ones that are on my list. The thing that holds me back from Africa is the stories that I hear about corruption in the airport and, take confiscating passports. I've seen so many YouTube videos where like people tried to get on Kenyan Airlines and they paid $2,000 for their flight and they were denied boarding because of some technicality. And then I've heard stories when they got into the Kenya, they had their passports confiscated for 48 hours. And those are the things that hold me back from Africa, whereas other places I don't hear those same stories. And I always said Africa is like they could be the biggest tourist market out there because of all the preservation of all the natural and wildlife. But they've got to do something about that corruption where they hassle tourists because that's going to hold them back. That's why a lot of people don't go there, and that's why I haven't gone there. Is because I don't want to deal with someone trying to confiscate my passport and like hold it ransom and then try and bribe me or something. So if they can fix that, I would be more inclined to want to go there. And I think, as a travel channel, I think we can promote it a lot more. But Kenya, Tanzania, South Africa, and Namibia. Those are the ones. I've even thought about Zimbabwe, Rwanda because of the gorillas. But for me, Africa, the nature is the big thing. But I've only been to Egypt. Also, North Africa, I'd like to go to Morocco. And yeah, so the next place that I would like to go or talk about would be in the Middle East region. So I do like Qatar and I like UAE. Jordan was okay. I'm not in a big hurry to go back to Jordan just because it's like a hot desert. There's not too much to see there other than Petra and Wadi Rum. The guy that I went with, my cameraman, he loves Wadi Rum. He loves Petra, and he wants to go back there. He said that was like one of his favorite places he's ever been. Okay. Qatar, I would say I'm becoming more and more inclined to really put Qatar on the radar. I heard stories, negative stories about Qatar. And when I went there, I thought it was like very safe and safe for tourists as well. As in, like, you're not going to deal with too much riffraff. The only thing about those countries is going through the immigration process. The immigration guys kind of like to mess with tourists. That would be there's something about immigration people in some of those countries in Middle East and Africa, I guess, where the immigration people like to pick on tourists, which just isn't a good look. But I heard, like, you hear this often with, like, in Qatar. They arrive in Qatar and the guy's just sitting there kind of talking to his friend and he's just taking his time, and you're already at the table and 30 minutes go by and he's just kind of punching in numbers. There's no real line, but he's just keeping you there because he just wants to. Those are the only things that are holding it back. But with the new automated passport control, e-passport, where you just scan the passport, hopefully some of those problems go away, right? I've had that happen in Dubai, but it's not that big of a deal. It just can be like kind of like, what is going on here? Like, what's going on? Because when you arrive in some countries, they just take your passport. They're like, how long are you going to be here? All right, have a good stay. Right? That's what we like. In the Caribbean, I'm going to tell you, in the Caribbean, the places that I like, the best islands that are worth it. I mean, St. Bart's is a paradise, just because the way it's set up. It's so safe. It's one of the safest places. I would take that over Saint Martin, And then I like Anguilla, but it lacks infrastructure and it's very expensive. But St. Bart's is amazing. It's just very expensive. Like we're talking almost $1,000 a night for the average hotel. But I found a cheap Airbnb there for like $250 a night, so that's why I was able to go there for a few days and get a rental car. The other islands that I like, Dominican Republic, but it's getting closer, but they just got to iron out some of the riffraff, but it's still cheap. I mean, you go over to Puerto Rico, Puerto Rico's 4 times more expensive than DR, and I'll take DR all day over Puerto Rico. Dominican Republic has a lot to see there. Oh, really? You've been subbed since the crypto news. That's cool. I've not been to Iran and Iraq. I'm an American. Our U.S. State Department does not advise to go there, but I would like to get there. I mean, a lot of it's just ironing out those. Yeah, I mean, Americans do go there. It's just I've not been there, and the way this channel is set up recently, we kind of go to the more popular places. Thank you to the 12 people who smashed up the likes. By the way, really appreciate it. But yeah, so I want to go to Iran in particular. I've heard nothing but great reviews. There's some areas in I want to call it like the true Middle East, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, all of that whole area. I want to call it like the former Mongolian Empire where Genghis Khan just went through the whole area, or former Soviet Union. Kazakhstan, every time I go to Dubai or in a lot of places, I've met Kazakhstan people, and they're always like so nice. They're nice people. It's just a matter of time before Kazakhstan becomes. I mean, the power that place has so much power, and no one really knows about it. As far as the Australia, New Zealand area, beautiful countries, very expensive, a little bit of a police state, but that's not a big deal. New Zealand, is probably the best country in the world for like someone who's got the money and wants just total safety. Go to New Zealand. You go to the North Island, it's a totally different experience than you're going to get in the South Island, and you're going to come back alive and not have to stress about whether or not you can live through it, because some people care about that. But there's plenty of safe countries in the world. It's just like that. Now, yeah, Barbados is cool. Am I in a hurry to go back to Barbados? No, not necessarily. St. Lucia, same thing. I'm not really in a hurry to go back to St. Lucia. I would like to go to the Grenadines. St. Kitts was okay, but the only other one that stood out was BVI. BVI is amazing. British Virgin Islands are better than the U.S. Virgin Islands. I'll say that right now. So there you go. And it's not because one's British, one's US. It's just because of the islands themselves, like the opportunities of getting around and all that. Thank you to the 15 people who smashed up the likes. Okay, now you guys ready for the countries that I was not a fan of? If you're ready for that, smash up the likes. Let's see if we can go from 15 to 20. We got 34 people watching. Renaissance Man says, I've been in Namibia and it was the best trip of my life. I've heard great things about Namibia. Actually, I think Namibia is probably the safest one. Oh, yeah, Anegada and BVI. All right, so the ones that I had challenges with, Egypt. Okay, I want to say good things about Egypt. I like Egypt. I went to Sharm el Sheikh. I went to Cairo, and I went to New Cairo City, and I wanted to take a bus, from Sharm el Sheikh and see the Sinai Peninsula and go up to Alexandria and then take the Nile River cruise. But by the time about a week went by in Egypt, I was kind of ready to get out of there, just because every time I went through the airport, there was always a hassle. They wanted to take everything out of my bag. And it's like I said to them, okay, hey, can you tell me why you went through my bag like that? And they'd be like, for cords, for cables, these things, chargers, charging cables. They go through your bag because of that. Never had that happen before. But it's a big thing for them there, I guess. And it almost made me wonder if they're just picking on tourists. But so getting around Egypt was not very easy. And then you would negotiate a price with the taxi, and they would say like it's $30 or $40. But then by the time you're done, they're telling you it's worth $50, and you're like, well, we agreed to $30. Why is it $50? And you can't really get out of it because, then it becomes, well, give me a tip. And it's like, okay, well, next time, if you want to do a deal, let's just know what the price is so I know ahead of time. Or if it's going to be $120, let me know it's going to be $120, not $150. So there was a lot of that kind of stuff it's the principle. It's not necessarily the money, it's the principality of the issue that I take issue with. But between the immigration, the hot weather, the dust, also going through the pyramids of Giza, you're there to see the history, but you can't really see the history and enjoy it because the whole time you're being solicited by people who are trying to sell you camel rides very aggressively, sell you other things aggressively, sell you tours, and sell you horseback rides. And I don't know, the way they treated the horses wasn't really good. I want to go back to Egypt. I want to love Egypt. I want to go back to Sharm el Sheikh. I like the Red Sea there. It's really nice. But again, it's one of those countries that's going to have to modernize the thought process of the way they treat tourists. Um, I don't know if it's good to be a local there, but it's as far as the way they hassle tourists, it's hard to feel comforted. Okay, the other one, India. I want to love India. I want to go back to India. Everywhere I go around the world, I always make friends with Indians. I eat Indian food in every country in the world. I love Indian food. But inside of India, one thing I didn't have happen was I didn't really get scammed in India. I really didn't get hassled in India. The problem that I have with India is just the pollution, the poverty. Uh, you could be in New Delhi or Old Delhi, I should say, and you want to love it, but it's just too chaotic. It's way too crazy. It's a place that you go down there and you're like, and it's like this in most of the places around India in the big cities. It's just too chaotic. It's hot. And again, this was another one of the countries where the immigration officers were playing reindeer games at because you already have to go through this like visa. They don't do visa on arrival. They don't do easy visa processing. So it's a bit complicated. Like I said, I love India. None of these countries would I say I wouldn't go back to. There's not a country really that I wouldn't go back to. So I would go back to India. I would go back to Egypt, but those are countries where the way that the thing went down was just kind of it takes away. I wouldn't say it's a great place to go for a holiday. Now, I don't say I dislike India or hate India because people say, oh, it's either you love India or hate India. I still love India, but there's some things that need to be fixed in order for that to be someplace that I want to go back to real quick in a hurry. Although sometimes I do feel like, hey, all right, I'm going back to India. I just want to go. So it's one of those places. It could be like Costa Rica for me, where the first time I went, I didn't really enjoy it. Then I loved it. I'm going to give India another shot. Hopefully I give Egypt another shot. The other one that I am not in a hurry to go back to, and it's for a different reason, but was Lebanon. So I went to Lebanon. There's a couple reasons not to go to Lebanon, but when we went there was no power. The grid was down. When you're trading the currency, you get like this big wad of cash that doesn't even fit in your wallet or your pockets, and it's only like $100. And that would be the main reason why I'm not in a big hurry to go back to Lebanon, just because literally the hotel didn't have power. It just it's not a good time to go to Lebanon. And it's the things about Lebanon, again, I want to go back there. It's a beautiful country. But if you go down towards the beaches they look like they have potential, but it's not well taken care of. And it's a very hot place. But Lebanon has, if they ever like come out of the situation they're in, I would go back to Lebanon. But as of right now, I'm not in a big hurry to go back there. Now, some of the other countries that I've gone to, those are like the main three that were probably like the most difficult or the most challenging places that I've been to. But then I have been to some of the countries that I like overall, but some of the areas can be really bad. Indonesia is one of them. So I like Indonesia overall in general. It's got Bali, like that's a great place. Jakarta's okay. Jogja's all right. But if you end up, outside of the tourist areas, Indonesia is a really hard place to enjoy as a tourist. It's got a lot of poverty. Whereas in the Philippines, they have poverty, but they're still friendly. Okay. In Indonesia and some of those smaller towns, you might get some weird looks. And you might question whether or not you're safe. And I've had that happen in Indonesia in some areas. Tourist areas are fine, but out in the countryside of Indonesia is a bit, like not necessarily like Thailand, that's for sure, or Philippines. But another one that I had the similar kind of situation with, like with Indonesia, but a little bit different. I'm not in a big hurry to go back to Maldives. Okay, I'll tell you why. One, it rains a lot. They always say, like, go during January or go during February when it's not rainy season. No, all year round is rainy season in the Maldives. Okay, cool. But the big two other reasons is this: it is incredibly expensive. And it's not easy to get around because they're all small atolls. So everyone always thinks, oh, I want to go to Maldives. That's what people always say. Even when you get to the atoll, there's nothing to really do there except for swim and hang out in your hotel. I could do that in Thailand. I could do that in Philippines for like 1/5 the price. The cheapest hotel that I found in Maldives when I was there was $500 a night. That was the cheapest. Well, I actually stayed at a hotel for $100 a night in Male, which you don't go to Maldives to stay in Male. Okay, that's the most densely populated place in the world, and there's no beaches there, and it's like this small, really compact island. They do have cheap hotel there, but I'm talking when you go to Maldives, you want to go out to the overwater bungalows. Now, when I stayed there, $500 a night, that was not in an overwater bungalow. Overwater bungalows are like $1,000 a night, maybe $800 a night. So I would say, Maldives overrated. Sorry. And here's the other thing that I wanted to say: the customer service and the people aren't as friendly as you would think. Like, if you want beautiful islands, you want aloha, or you want friendly people, you'll get that in Thailand. You'll get that in Philippines. You won't get that in Maldives. They look at everything as very much transactional, and they're only going to give the bare minimum for customer service. In fact, they actually have to import people from other countries like the Philippines to do that. But the thing is, it's hard to get retention on those islands because the staff has to live on those islands. So it's just a really weird situation, very expensive, and the staff are never really that happy. And I understand why, because they're living basically on an island. And if you think that living on an island in the middle of the ocean like that is cool, it's not. You know why they call Bora Bora boring? Because it's boring. It's beautiful. Yeah, you look at it, you see it, but after a while, you're like, what am I going to do here in Bora Bora? Because to get anything moving, to get on a boat in Bora Bora is very expensive. To stay in a hotel in Bora Bora, to do anything in Bora Bora is very expensive. But on top of that, the activities are not like island hopping in Thailand or eating good food or sharing laughs. It's just very just commercialized. It's a whole commercialized experience. Sure, you're going to look at that volcano, but I mean, to get there, it's not very easy. Same with Maldives. It's not very easy to get there. So, I mean, if you're into tropical places, Philippines again, you're going to get 7,500 islands, and it's going to be more like down to earth vibes. And I like down to earth vibes. So those are the ones that really stood out as places that I'm not in a hurry to go back to. Like I said, I've been in 90 countries. I've been to some of them like over 10 times. I keep going back to Singapore. I keep going back to Malaysia. I keep going back to Thailand. It seems like that's the place to be as of right now. I always have it in my mind that at some point in time, once Africa gets rid of the corruption, that might just be my new spot. I'd love to check out Madagascar. I'd love to check out Namibia, Zimbabwe, Kenya. But again, that corruption thing, which I've experienced in places like Maldives, India, Egypt, and I hear it's even worse over there in Africa where they confiscate your passport for 2 or 3 days. Who wants to deal with that? I mean, you watch any of your favorite YouTubers, if they ever went to Africa, they've all got that story of having their passport confiscated by whether it's Mozambique or, they missed they missed their flight because they got denied boarding or something like that. It's just like, those are reindeer games that we don't need to be playing when we're on holiday, right? Have I been to Hungary? Yes, I have. Gateway says, seems like 3 to 4 days max for Bora Bora and Maldives. I definitely would never go back to Maldives solo. There is no reason for me to go to Maldives solo. And I would have to go with a girl. Now, I didn't go to Mafushi and the other island. I only went to Male because that's where the airport is. I did hear that Mafushi, that I kind of wish I went to that. Okay. But the one that this year, I've been to 6 countries so far: Sri Lanka, Maldives, Malaysia, Thailand, Singapore, and back to the US. The year before that in 2024, I went to 24 or 26 countries, something like that. So I had a lot more aggressive travel schedule that last year, but it kind of caught up to me. I got a little bit of travel fatigue, and yeah, so we'll see what ends up happening. How old am I? I am 42. Gypsy Traveler. It's funny because I actually just wrote a book. The book is going to be an ebook. I can make it into a paperback, but it's basically an autobiography. I'm not going to sell it for a lot of money. It's going to be like maybe like $5.99 or something. And it's called The Diary of a Three-Star Gypsy. And the reason I call myself a three-star gypsy is because I prefer three-star hotels over 5-star, over 1-star, over 2-star. I found my happy spot is a 3-star hotel in Costa Rica, a 3-star hotel in Philippines, a 3-star hotel in Thailand. I've stayed at JW Marriott's. I've stayed at Ritz-Carlton's. You know, if you guys watch my other channel, Island Hopper TV Hotels, you know I stay and review all those hotels, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, those hotels are good. They have lounge access. But if I really want to go on vacation, I'm staying in a 3-star hotel right along a beach or up in a forest place where I can really unwind, decompress, and relax. 5-star hotels are usually too crowded and too commercialized and, you know, lots of screaming kids. And I just don't really like that. It's just usually it's too crowded. It's, you know, they've got like 500 rooms where a 3-star hotel's got like 20 rooms usually. So that's my story of how I became a 3-star gypsy. And I talk about how I ended up getting into this whole thing of being a world traveler, going to all these countries. And I basically tell the story of how it all kind of came together and how I basically was just traveling on credit cards at first and how I managed to not only pay off all my credit card debt from the investment that I made in the travels, but then I ended up actually making a career out of it or a job out of it for several years now. And so the reason I make that is because I think there's other people out there, because I know that people always ask me, how do you travel so much? What is your job? So I now tell the story, and that's what the Diary of the 3-Star Gypsy is. And I actually wrote that when I was in Thailand I actually wrote the most of it when I was in Khao Lak in Thailand. I was drinking some chamomile tea with honey and ginger and lemon, and I just pounded out like probably 10 chapters in one night. I was surprised. Wasn't even caffeine. Yeah, so I'll put that. That book should be coming soon, so I'll put that out there next time for anyone who's interested to hear the story of how it all kind of came together. And my mom read it a little bit. She like read the first 2 chapters, and she said it would be a good book for young kids. And so that's why I only wrote the first 2 chapters, sent it over to her, and that when she said that, I knew that I should complete it because when the time comes when young kids have this ambition or this idea to also travel, maybe it can be some encouragement for them or someone who's like me. You know, the thing is, there was a lady from Philippines who didn't even start traveling until she was in her 40s, and she's been to every country in the world. So it doesn't even matter what your age is. It's never too late to start. There's so many people that I know who had kids when they were young, and you know, they're about to be empty nesters, and they've always had this dream to travel, but they think they're too young, they're too old, or some of them don't know if they can travel. And I would say, if you're 42 years old and you're an empty nester, or if you're 45 years old and you're an empty nester, you could literally spend the next 2 years, assuming you've got some sort of access or resource to money, and just spend 2 years just traveling. I just spent 2 years personally, pretty much traveling full time. I don't have a house. I own a house, but it's someone's living in my house. So that's why I'm staying in a hotel here in Phoenix. I came home to see my family for Easter, and I stayed a little bit because, I'm also taking care of some things, getting some new stuff, some new clothes, and just kind of taking my time before I get back out into the travel mode. But uh, it doesn't matter what age you are. You could be 48 years old and catch me probably at 90 countries if you really wanted. Really, you can really rack them up. I mean, one place you can get a lot of countries really quickly is the Caribbean and Europe. Like, how many countries are in the Schengen visa region, right, in Europe? And that's like maybe like 30. I don't know the exact number actually. How many countries are there in the Caribbean? You can island hop around and get a lot of countries that way. If you're trying to count countries, you could also count countries really easily in Asia or in uh, Central America, South America. But one thing I used to count countries, like that was one of the things. I'd be like new countries, but that's why you'll notice I keep going back to the same ones because I've been to so many countries and most of them were the ones that I always wanted to go to. The only few that I have never been to that are kind of on my bucket list, I would say like the Tanzania, because I want to see the Serengeti, the Kilimanjaro, Morocco. Believe it or not, I've never been to Morocco. I've never been to the Canary Islands, although I've been to Portugal and Spain, Azores, all that, Cape Verde. South Africa, I heard that Cape Town is like the most beautiful city in the world. But yeah, that's pretty much what it comes down to at this stage in the game. I've pretty much been everywhere that I ever wanted to go. People say, "Oh, you want to go to Antarctica?" No, not really. Not really. I mean, there's only a few places left. I did think about creating an app uh, that would be like an AI travel agent with all the information. I don't know if anyone would be interested in that. If I did hear that people were interested in an Island Hopper TV travel agent app, like using AI, but also with our programming built inside of it with also some additional features, then I would probably make the investment because building an app costs a little bit of money. I don't know how much it would cost, but last time I checked, it was like $20,000 is what I was quoted. So I didn't proceed with it. But if some people said they were interested, I'd consider making that app. The other thing was I wrote the book. People never really asked me for a book, but they asked me the questions that made me want to write that book, The Diary of a Three-Star Gypsy, which I just completed, which is about to be published. And so, I mean, some things do get done. And I would say building an app would be next up on the list if we can get it done. Someone says Chiang Mai, Phuket, Phi Phi Islands, Thailand. Yep. It's hard to find another country to top Thailand. For me, overall, it has so much to offer for all ages. Yeah, but the thing is, as it gets more and more popular, prices are going to go up. This is what happens: supply and demand. Where do we go next? I went to Sri Lanka. I don't know if it's going to be on Thailand's level ever. Philippines, it could be, but I don't see it catching Thailand unless they make some real radical changes to the way they approach everything. Lao, I don't see Lao being like that. Thailand is a unicorn. So where's the next horizon? Where's the next place that will be like the next Thailand? And I don't see it. I mean, Thailand is a unicorn, isn't it? It's in a league of its own. People say Vietnam's the best country in the world, I guess, but Gypsy Traveler says, I'm in Vietnam, but we'll return to Latin America. Yeah, Latin America, El Salvador is a cool country. I like Guatemala, but El Salvador is one that has potential. El Salvador, Panama, Nicaragua. It'll be interesting to see how those develop over time. You notice I didn't even really talk about Colombia, and the main reason I don't talk about Colombia is because it's actually quite dangerous. Colombia is a beautiful country, and they've got some really cool people there, but it's actually very dangerous. You can lose your life in Colombia, probably easier than most countries. And same with Mexico. Mexico is like an awesome country and got some really good food, friendly people, but there's also this underbelly of just danger. And it doesn't matter if you're Latino, a gringo, or anything. Anyone can fall victim there. So it's not just they're targeting gringos. It's not just they're targeting like Latinos. It's not that it's just got something you got to be always on the lookout for. But it doesn't stop me from going to Mexico because it's good. But something to take into consideration. Ty Bet says, "Sup, time traveler from like 8 years ago. Glad you still uploading strong." Hey man, that's cool to hear. 8 years ago. Where was I 8 years ago? That was like back when I was doing cryptocurrency videos, right? DRK says Europe overall still best place to live on, but left politics. Yeah, Europe. I'm not in a hurry to go back to Europe. I'm not. I'm not at all. I mean, last time I was there, it was so crowded. I'm not a big fan of big crowds. Um, it was crowded. It was too crowded. They have good culture, good charm. The towns and cities in Europe are very charming, but it's gotten so crowded and it's gotten a bit dangerous. Like you in Europe, you can. It's not violent crime in Europe that you have to worry about. It's your cell phone getting pickpocketed. You could just be standing there like this, like this, and someone will come whizzing by. Someone will come whizzing by on a motorbike and just take the phone right out of your hand. My friend just had that happen in London, like yesterday. And I literally, when I was sitting at a table in Rome, someone came up and tried to grab my bag and run, and they missed it. They went like this, and they missed it. That was in Rome. You don't see them coming because they're so slick. They're so slick. Gypsy says Colombia is safe away from the large cities. The pueblitos are beautiful and safe and friendly. That's right. That's right. Like you don't go, like if you go to Bogota, it can be dangerous. If you go to Medellin, it can be dangerous. If you go to Cali, it can be dangerous. In Cartagena, it's dangerous. But you go out into like some of those places out in the city countryside, it's just like any other place in Latin America. It's safe. It's like Philippines. The province is much safer than Manila. Manila is actually considered one of the most dangerous cities in the world, but Philippines itself is safe. But when you're in Manila, it's a dangerous place. Manila is a dangerous place. The first thing you do when you get to Manila is leave Manila. The first thing you do when you get to San Jose in Costa Rica is leave San Jose, Costa Rica. So same thing with Colombia. First thing you do when you get to Bogota is leave Bogota. As much as I want to chill in Bogota and check it out, but there's not much to see in Bogota anyway. It's a place to work. But you go out into the countryside, that's where Colombia would shine for sure. And that's how it seems to be in most places, even in the United States. You could say the same thing about Los Angeles or New York City. Very dangerous, but you get outside of New York City and Los Angeles and you go out into the suburban, countryside of America, it's very safe. Getaway says, Manila isn't that bad if you stay in Makati or BGC. BGC is very safe. Bonifacio Global City is very safe. Makati is, you could check the news. Makati is, are you talking about P. Burgos, or where are you talking about in Makati? Yeah, if you go to Binondo or anything like that, Malate is a good place to get hassled. You guys have probably seen my other channel, Island Hopper TV Travel Highlights. I've done walking tours around there. You can see what goes on down there from my perspective. I don't always film everything I do, obviously, but when I'm filming, you can see why I would say these things. Bulgaria, Hungary, actually very safe European countries. Yeah, I have noticed that the Eastern European countries are safer than the Western Europeans. So like Budapest, Prague. Well, Prague now, Prague is safe, but there's petty theft in particular with like currency exchangers. But Estonia, Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, all those are very safe. Very safe. Starts to get more dangerous once you go up into like Finland, but in particular Sweden and Norway. You would think those are safe places, but they've got this weird situation going on over there. I don't know what they've done, because Swiss or Swedish are usually kind of smart. So I don't know why they've allowed some situation to occur where it would get to a point where it's actually kind of dangerous. I saw some statistic even with Sweden, and I'm just saying, like, I was in Sweden and I remember thinking, like, this place is not safe in Stockholm. Getaway says everybody has different experiences. I respect it. Yeah, no, I mean, you at night in Makati, I would say you have to be careful after like 9 o'clock p.m. Outside of P Burgos. Uh, BGC is safe. BGC for sure safe. Um, where did you travel? His name is your name Island Hopper? You have a you have a YouTube channel named Island Hopper as well? I can't tell if that's actually your channel name or what. Um, let's see what your channel is called. It is called. Oh no, you just username. It came up as Island Hopper, but your username. Anyway, yeah, you traveled solo. Where did you go? Everybody has different experiences. I can respect it. No, I won't strike. I've got another channel about Arizona, and people copy that name all the time, and I don't strike or anything. But it's funny if like they create the exact same name. Like the only time it ever became an issue was on TikTok when I couldn't actually get the Island Hopper TV username because someone else had it and they were uploading my videos. So they were uploading my videos and they had the name Island Hopper TV. Like they had the username, the handle. So I was like, dude, come on, man. And he gave it to me. He gave it back. He was like, okay, you can have it. And then he gave it back. So kudos to him for being a stand-up person. Why use the word solo and not alone? Oh, um, why use the word solo and not alone? Maybe because that's just the pop culture name. It's just a pop culture thing. It's like digital nomad. Why not call it gypsy? Why not call it traveler? Why not call it hopper? um, so it's got all that. Gypsy says, if you don't speak Spanish, you are stuck in large cities or tourist areas. Oh, yeah, poquito español. We'll see. Quebec or Montreal? It's nice. Montreal is a cool city. It's like it's more it's more of like a European city on the North American continent. Same with Quebec. Quebec has got to be the most European city in all of North America. The most European city in America or in the USA would be probably Boston. It seems like that whole area in the Northeast is and Boston's not very European at all, but by American standards, yeah. Do you prefer traveling alone or with someone? If I could travel with my best friends, I would travel with my best friends. But people got jobs, they got kids, they got families, they can't always travel. So I got into the habit. In my 30s, I would have never gone anywhere really by myself too much. I would always say, "Who wants to go? Who wants to go?" But then after getting bored asking that and realizing that everyone else around me was starting families and having kids, I was like, "I'll just go." And that was how it all kind of came about. But there is some benefits of traveling alone. You become friends with yourself. You become more confident. You become definitely more self-confident. You become like a lone wolf, I guess you could say. But no, it's cool. It's nothing. It it's good if you can travel with your friend, but then also even when you travel with someone, you're gonna want your alone time. Like you don't want to be sucking off the same brain cell the whole time. You want to separate. Sometimes, sometimes if I travel with the same person for too long, I'm like, well, you could sit over there. Don't worry, you don't always have to sit next to me on this flight, like that. Is China a difficult place to travel? Yeah, yeah, it is. The most probably the scariest travel story that I have is in Shanghai. I was like abducted by a taxi driver for no reason because I was accused of being a spy or something. I don't know. I still don't know because they said it in Mandarin. Looking back on it, that was like that was probably the scariest moment of all my travels was basically being abducted by a taxi driver who was convinced I was a spy. and he was yelling at me in Mandarin for no reason, for literally no reason. Would I travel today? Like, as in, would I book a ticket to China right now? No, not right now. There's too much tension, and China's got a reputation of kind of taking political prisoners. They do that kind of stuff. Chinese people in general, I think, are pretty friendly, and it's a safe place. But that's the only downside with China. I would go to Taiwan. I would go to Hong Kong. I would go to Macau, but I wouldn't go to the mainland right now because of the political tension. If they can iron out a trade deal or something like that, where everyone's like, because right now the tone and the rhetoric from both sides is very aggressive. That's I don't even know if it's a good time to be in Asia right now, just because of the way that the trade wars are happening. It probably is safe to be over there, but if that stuff continues to escalate, it might not be a good time to be over in Asia for an American in particular. If you're not an American, it probably doesn't matter. But we'll see what ends up happening, right? It's like going to Russia. Yeah, like going to Russia. It's like not a good time to go to Russia. I mean, I get invited by Russians. They're like, come to St. Petersburg. It's safe. I'm like, yeah, I don't think it's too safe until this war stops. Because at any given time, my president, whether it's Biden or Trump, could say something that could, I don't know, escalate it into World War III. I even had a guy who's a friend of mine he's still in the military. He said, yeah, in 2025, don't go to the South China Sea, which is Philippines, basically. And I said, why? He said, just trust me, don't go to the South China Sea in 2025. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, hopefully nothing happens. That would be like the Philippines and Taiwan. So I'm not really in a hurry to go to Taiwan or Philippines right now just because of that guy's advice. Basically, something's going on. I hope not. I hope not. But it could break out at any time, like you're saying. Yeah, I mean, it literally, and that's the thing. I always watch the rhetoric. Like, what's the rhetoric? Thank you to the 34 people who smashed up the likes. If you guys smash up the likes, I'll keep going, or we could stop. It's up to you guys. But I got a lot to say anyway because there's a lot to say. But yeah, as far as like the geopolitical thing, whether you're apolitical or not, whether you stay out of it or not, political tensions and world wars can kick off at any time. COVID could happen. Remember when COVID happened and everyone was like, I mean, when that happened, you know where I was? On December 31st, 2019. That was when 2020 happened, right? Because it's called COVID-19. That day, I was in Hong Kong, China. There was protests at the time, and that's what everyone was talking about. So I celebrated New Year's in Hong Kong. I was sick, very sick, and it might have been that COVID thing. Really, it could have been. And because I was very sick. I mean, it was like, I remember when I left, like on the second or third to Philippines, the pilot was circling around Manila because he couldn't get clearance to land. My ears were so plugged for like a day and a half. It was the most painful decompression because of that, because I was already over the sickness, but I had still like kind of had it a little bit. And I had a dry cough for 3 months afterwards. But I was in Vietnam when I started to get the symptoms. I was in Hanoi and I was in Asia for all of that January as everything kind of like became an issue. And so, yeah, I've seen it firsthand how like you could, wherever you are in the world, it starts out small and it just starts turning into a snowball effect. By about February, I flew home. I was like, jettison. If you notice, I flew home around the same time the United States kicked off its trade war, which was about 15 days ago. I don't know if any of you caught that, but that was kind of, I was kind of like having like a flashback to COVID. I was like, is there going to be lockdowns? I didn't think there was going to be lockdowns necessarily, but I noticed the rhetoric was getting a little bit more intense. And what it was when China said, China will not be backed down. China will not be bullied. China will not be pushed around. China is not, this and that. And I was like, that wasn't exactly like that wasn't a de-escalation statement. And then Trump says, we're going to hit you with double the tariffs. China comes back with double the tariffs. I was kind of like, okay, let's go home for Easter. I mean, to be honest with you, now you guys, I didn't share that with you guys, but now you know. Purple Drake says, hit the likes, guys. Thank you. Yeah, we got almost 40 likes, 77 people watching. One of the things that I want to say my travels have introduced me to, which I probably wouldn't have been introduced to if I had just stayed in the US, soda water. So I like soda, but the problem with soda is it's got high fructose corn syrup and all these artificial sweeteners that are not necessarily good for you. So I had to resort to soda water. But there's ways to actually make your own soda. And so one of the things you can do is you can take natural honey, whether it's Manuka honey or your local honey, put the honey in there and then take like a lime and squeeze it. And then you've got basically like a lemon lime soda. Okay. But it's not high fructose corn syrup. It's like, or you could put agave syrup, but what we're talking about is like natural stuff, right? You could put cane sugar in there and make your own soda as well. But what you don't want to be dealing with is that aspartame and you want the natural glucose, right? Like the stuff that's not synthetic. Honey, you want that real stuff. So soda water, I drink at even here in the US. It's not very popular here in the US, but it tastes good. Do I have international friends? Yes, I do. I make international friends quite frequently in Asia, and I make friends with Europeans in Asia. When I go to Europe, I walk away from Europe and I'm like, I didn't even make any friends the whole time I was here. I go to Thailand and I make friends with Brits all the time, with Swedes, with Finns, with Thai, of course. Like it seems like with Thai, I always make friends with like the taxi drivers. Because Thai are they like when they have a business. Everything for Thailand is about work. In Asia in particular, the way that you make friends in Thailand or in Asia is through some sort of business partnership. So whether you're doing taxis or tours or something like this, or like they're selling something on the street, they'll invite you. Like one of the guys, he walks around with this big iguana. Well, I give him a couple dollar tip. Next thing you know, he wants to drink some drinks right there in Cha Wang and Koh Samui. So Asia is like that. When you want to make friends with Asians, in particular, people from that country, whether it's Thailand, Vietnam, etc., it's usually through that. With India, though, India is a country where you can make friends without having to. They will just be your friend. Same with Philippines. I always just meet people from India, and it's just like my friend who I partnered with in a business is in Singapore, but we're friends. We don't even do business anymore. We just hang out and talk. So yeah, it's good to make international friends. Latin America too. Costa Rica is a good place to make friends. Panama, good place to make friends. Peru is a good place to make friends. Mexico too, yeah. Someone said only if you have a remote home office work with Western salaries in Asia. Yeah. Have you ever traveled to Papua New Guinea? If so, what was your experience like? No, I have not been to Papua. Next time I go to Indonesia, I would like to go to West Papua and then do maybe like a land border crossing, or I'll just fly into Port Moresby from maybe Australia if I go to Cairns or if I go to Darwin. So that is not high on my list, though. The ones that are highest on my list right now are Namibia, South Africa, Tanzania, Kenya, Morocco, the Azores, Canary Islands. There was a point in time earlier this year that I was actually looking to go to China, but things kind of shifted because there's a lot to see in China. But yeah, I've been to China like 4 times, but I haven't been since COVID. I got that 10-year visa, and it's like I'm like 5 or 6 years into it now, so it expires soon. maybe it's 7 years into it actually. I'd have to check the dates. But there's some islands that I would really like to go to as well. Mauritius, Seychelles. I almost went to those actually recently. But sometimes I just want to just go back to Thailand and chill. To be honest with you, Cape Verde Islands would be nice. Yeah, I mean that's like the Azores, Canary Islands, all that. Uh, Someone said, "Where do you plan to travel next?" Yeah, that's a good question, Tanya. I'm thinking about traveling in the U.S. a little bit. I'd like to go to Texas and maybe back to Florida. I always like to go through that route, and I typically like to ride an Amtrak. I even thought about going to Chicago. I like Chicago. I like San Antonio. I like Dallas. Dallas is a place I want to get more familiar with. I like Florida. I like Tampa, Clearwater Beach, Key West, West Palm. Maybe doing a little bit of the East Coast. Nah, I just did the East Coast last time I was in the U.S. and I wasn't a big fan. I do have this urge to go back to BVI, to St. Bart's, to be honest with you. But hurricane season coming up, Dominican Republic would be nice. But I don't have any immediate plans, but I could travel at any given point. I'm at that point now where because I book spontaneous tickets. I don't really plan anything. I don't know if you know that, but I tell people all the time, I've been to 90 countries and I never planned any of them. I always did research on them, but when I actually ended up like doing it, it was kind of like, all right, God, if you can hear me, where am I going next? And throw a leaf in the sky and see which way it blows. It was like, give me a sign. Give me a sign. If you can hear me, give me a sign. And I'd see a sign and it'd be like, I don't know, Thai food, the best food in the world. And I'd be like, all right, well, I'm going to Bangkok, I guess. Okay, let's go on there and check kayak.com or Google Flights. I use or Kayak on the app. Just go to Kayak and be like, all right, Phoenix to Bangkok. All right, 24 hours, leaves at 8 o'clock tonight. Let's see here. Do I have everything that I need? All right, looks like I'm going to Bangkok. Or Singapore. Okay. Straight shot or Phoenix to San Francisco, 18-hour flight directly into Singapore. Leaves at 10 p.m. tonight. That's usually how it ends up going down. Like when I flew back to the US from Singapore, I was getting the idea earlier in the morning. Like I woke up that morning saying, should I just fly back today? And I was like thinking about it. I went for a bike ride around Singapore because they have like a bunch of rental bikes, and I rode it down by the East Coast Beach Park. And I stared at the beach and I thought about it, looked at flights. So I was already starting to do the research. But again, that happened all within like 8 hours of planning. And I booked the flight. Or I went for some Chinese food and I drank a beer. And because I always know once I drink that beer, I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna do something because if I don't drink a beer, I probably just stay there. But once I drink that beer, I go through the process. I punch in my credit card details, and I'm like, all right, if this goes through, then it's meant to be. Punch in my credit card details. Congratulations, your reservation is confirmed. Please check your email for details. And it's like, oh, I leave in 3.5 hours. All right, I better run up to my room, start packing everything, get a grab to the airport. Next thing you know, I'm in the airport. I'm waiting there for 2 hours and I'm already on the plane headed back. Just like that. And no, it's not expensive, actually. You can get last minute deals all the time. Someone said if I had unlimited income, I would keep going back to Dubai. I've thought about going back to Dubai, obviously, especially in the summertime when it's going to be hot. I have thought about going there. Thanks to the 45 people who smashed up the likes. If you guys smash up the likes, I'll keep going. But the benefit of going to Dubai in the summertime is it's not as crowded, it's not as touristic, not as not as touristic, and the prices are much lower, but it's very hot. Very hot. Very. Oh my gosh. And I'm from Phoenix. Because Dubai has actually humidity. So it's hot like Phoenix plus humidity. I mean, you step outside in Dubai, within 30 seconds, your back is sweating. You go to a sauna right now. at one of those gyms or whatever, it'll take about 3 or 4 minutes for you to start sweating, right? In Dubai, 30 seconds you're sweating. And it's back sweat. It's not just you're going to get the brow sweat, of course, but when your back is perspirating, you're like, dang. Yeah, Dubai is a ghost town in the summertime. Like, but they keep building new things. They keep trying to bring it indoors, right? Like, thank goodness for the air conditioning over there, man. Yeah. Hey, Kai, nice to see you. Yeah, it's good. I'm going to remember some of you guys like Tanya, Native to Earth, DRK, Charlie Chi. Do more U.S. cities, please. I'm from Australia and would love to explore more of the states. Yeah, I'm thinking about going to Texas. I almost went to California on the Amtrak too. That's the thing. I could wake up tomorrow, say, okay, I'm turning in the rental car, go down to the Amtrak station in Maricopa. Next thing you know, I'm either like, okay, when's the next train? Is the next train going to San Antonio or Albuquerque to San Antonio, or is the next train going to Los Angeles? Which one's it going to be? And I just catch the next train out of town. That's how I do it. So isn't that weird? People are always like, I don't know why you do it like that. How do you do it like that? I don't know. It's been working out for me for the last 10 years to just kind of wing it. I'm winging it. And that's the thing. When I get to the city, that's when I book my hotel. Like when the train's rolling into like San Bernardino, that's when I start looking at hotels. When I'm sitting there picking up my luggage from the airport, thing where the suitcases come out, that's when I'm looking for hotels. And it works. And someone was saying it's too expensive. I haven't really had any problems with it. I would say it's more expensive to book a hotel in the wrong side of town and realize that, you're supposed to be there for 4 days, but you don't want to stay anymore. You don't even want to stay there one night, and they won't give you a refund, and you have to go in order to get to the right place of town, So that's the thing is like, find out where you want to stay first. Have you been to Wales or Edinburgh? No. I'm Welsh. I'm part Welsh and Scottish, actually. Not fully, but one of my ancestors was from there, from Wales. So I should go there. What is your favorite New England destination? I'm into New England area for sure. Was thinking Portland, Maine, or something would be tight to visit. Boston. Providence is cool. I like Newport. Rhode Island is cool. They got a big bridge, and it's just a nice place. I think it used to be like the most wealthy area of all of New England for a long time there. Newport is good. Portland is cool. Portland's all right. Augusta. They got that Williams Port or something like that. Fort Williams, maybe. It's a lighthouse out there in Maine. New Hampshire's all right. Portsmouth. Nah. Portsmouth. Nah. Maybe if you're going to go out for like a night at the pub, that could be a cool place to like explore. But Boston. Yeah, Boston's good. Where else? In New England, not really. Doesn't really grab me. It's all right there. Rich people from Dubai go to Europe in summer. Yeah, they do. Someone said I should do Vegas videos. You're right. Ty bets. Ty knows. Ty is right. Oh yeah, we already talked about India. Did you see our India comments? Political chats? I did comment about India. I don't know. Are you a bot or are you a real person, political chats? What is your question? We talked about India in this video. Where's better to visit for first timers, Miami or Austin? Miami, and it's not even close. Yeah, Acadia National Park is nice. You need a rental car to get up there. There's not really an airport or anything, so you would need a rental car. There's no train either. The Amtrak stops in Portland. You can take the Amtrak all the way from Portland. I went from Miami to Maine. That was my mission. I was like, I'm gonna go from Miami to Maine on Amtrak. Because when I was in South America, I was in Brazil, and I got this idea to fly to Panama City for the first time. That was when I went to Chile, I went to Argentina, Uruguay, I went to Peru for the first time, and it was winter down there. So winter in South America is actually kind of chilly. Like Uruguay is pretty far south. And I went to Rio, and when I was in Rio, I was like, "Oh, I'm going to get out of South." I was going to go to either Colombia or Panama, so I booked the flight to Panama City. Well, they flew me to this place called Belo Horizonte. So I got on the plane and I flew to Belo Horizonte. I never even heard of the place before. By the way, Rio's a bit dangerous, a little bit sketch. Like getting to the airport at night, the drivers are always kind of like, it's not safe. Anyway, so they let me get to Belo Horizonte. It was midnight, and all of a sudden they called my name over the intercom. They kept saying the name, and I didn't really think that was my name because they have a Portuguese accent, a Brazilian accent in Portuguese. And he was like, "Hey, can you show me your yellow fever vaccination card?" And I'm like, "Excuse me? Are you being serious right now? I don't have that." And he's like, "Then I can't let you on this flight." And I said, "What do you mean you can't let me on this flight? I've already booked the first leg and I'm here in Belo Horizonte. Where would I go?" And he goes, "We'd have to get your suitcase and you'd have to exit the airport." And I was like, no, you're joking." And I was like, "Well, I was in the Navy and they vaccinated me. Here, look, see, here's my vaccination record. They gave me a yellow fever shot." And he's like, "I can't take that. That's not an official yellow fever shot." And I was like, "So what are you going to do?" And he's like, I was like, "Come on, just let me go to Panama." And he's like, "I can't." So they offloaded me in Belo Horizonte at midnight, a place in the middle of Brazil that I never even been to. And this was back in 2019. And so I went there, and I had to find a hotel in Belo Horizonte. And I thought about staying one day, but I was already kind of over Brazil. And they didn't even refund my ticket or anything. The airline didn't. They just kept the $755 that I paid. And I said, "You know what? Screw this. I'm going back to the United States. I'm not messing around in Latin America or in Central South America anymore." And the reason is because you can't be in Brazil and then fly to Panama without a yellow fever card. I didn't know that at the time. If I came from the U.S. to Panama, I would have been able to get in, but it would have had to wait 7 days. So when I got to Miami, I said, "Okay, I'm going to take the Amtrak from Miami to Maine." That was just a thing that I did. So I did that. And I stopped at all the cities in between. I stopped at Savannah, Georgia, Charleston, South Carolina. I think I did. Did I do Charlotte, North Carolina? I did. I don't remember if I did Charlotte, but I did Savannah, Charleston, uh, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York City, Boston, Portland. Then when I came back down, I did Portsmouth, Boston real quick. Like I didn't even stay the night. I just got the train there, and I went to Philly from there. And then from Philly, I caught the direct train down into Atlanta. And then, from Atlanta, I flew to, no, from Atlanta, I took a bus to Chattanooga, Tennessee. And I always remember they were saying, "Oh, this is the Chattahoochee." I was just thought it's the funniest thing ever. The Chattahoochee River. And I went to Chattanooga. And when I got there, I was like, "What is there to do here?" And they're like, "Go to Ruby Falls in the mountain." So right when my bus arrived at like 4 in the afternoon, I went to the Ruby Falls right before it closed. It was cool. And I stayed one day in Chattanooga, woke up, and I'm like, "All right, let me get another Greyhound." Riding Greyhound is rough because I wanted to ride the train, but yeah, I had to ride the Greyhound from Atlanta to Chattanooga, and then I caught a Greyhound again from Chattanooga to Nashville. Oh, it is rough. It is rough, man. Greyhound. Oh man. By the time I got to Nashville, I was like, "All right." I walked around Broadway, checked out Fort Nash and some of that other stuff in Nashville. It's expensive as heck in Nashville. And then I went down to I flew into New Orleans because I wasn't going to take I just needed to get to somewhere where the Amtrak connected. So I got to New Orleans, and then I stayed there a couple nights, and then I took the train from New Orleans to Houston. From Houston, I took the train to San Antonio. The reason I'm telling you all this is because in case you guys ever want to do it, that's you can follow my route. uh oh, he says, please do more live streams. This is perfect. Oh, right on. DRK, yes, live streams he do are great. New Orleans is my city. Is Austin barbecue better than Dallas? No. No. The best barbecue in the country, another route, I'll tell you another route that I did. So when I came in from Europe, I was in Naples, Italy, and I was getting sick with like allergies or something. The weather was just real crummy. And it was another one of those things. I was just like walking around Naples in the morning, and I was like, man, is it time to go home? Because I was getting allergies or sick or something. So I was like looking on the app, and I found an American Airlines flight to Logan Airport with the layover in London Heathrow. So I took it, and I arrived in Boston. Boston's actually a good port of entry. My favorite port of entry on the East Coast is Boston. My favorite port of entry on the West Coast is San Francisco. If San Francisco is not available, I go for Vancouver, and then you could clear customs in Vancouver for the U.S. But I try to avoid LAX, and I probably try to avoid Seattle. So I always aim for SFO. Something about SFO is it's a real easy airport to do a port of entry. I've never tried Atlanta. I know that Atlanta domestic flights are no good, so I try to avoid that one. But they do say that Atlanta has good international arrivals. Anyway, I like Boston. But I got to Boston, and I was like, well, I don't really want to stay in Boston too long. So I woke up the next morning, and I was looking for a train to go through upstate New York. So I went to upstate New York, and I wanted to get to Buffalo. So I took the train from Boston to Buffalo. When I got to Buffalo, I checked out Buffalo, and then I went around Niagara Falls and all that. And then from there, I went down. Where did I go from Buffalo? Oh, yeah. I flew from Buffalo to Cincinnati. I'd never been to Cincinnati before. So I wanted to see the Natty, Cincinnati, because I wanted to make a video. We made the video, right? And from Cincinnati, I went down to Louisville by Greyhound. Oh, man. Again, back to the Greyhound because they don't have the trains. So it's either planes, trains, or buses. And sometimes I'll actually take an Uber for real, or a taxi. But I went to Louisville. I'd always wanted to go to Louisville, but from Louisville, I could take the train to Indianapolis. So I took the train to Indianapolis. And from Indy, I went to Kansas City. And the reason I tell you the whole story is because you asked where the best barbecue is. It's Kansas City. It's Kansas City. The best barbecue in America is Kansas City, in my opinion, or North Carolina. Dallas does decent. New Orleans does decent. But in my opinion, Kansas City or North Kakalaki, as they call it, North Carolina, Charlotte. They got good food out there. But from Kansas City, I took the train to St. Louis. St. Louis is a bit weird. From St. Louis, I went to, where did I go from St. Louis? I can't even remember. I don't think I flew back from St. Louis, but either way, yeah, I like to get in the routes where the trains are. You can actually go on Google and type in like Amtrak train route, and you can see all the places that the Amtrak goes. And sometimes you got to like zigzag around. You might even have to backtrack a bit just to get to the next route because there's like the Southwester. That's what they call the lines. But pretty much if you can get to Chicago, because another route that I did was from Chicago to Montana, which is if you took it all the way, it would go Chicago to Seattle. And it goes through North Dakota. North Dakota is a long state, and there ain't nothing to see there. And then you arrive into Montana, and over half of Montana is like nothing to see. and then you arrive into what is the Northern Rocky Mountains, where they got Glacier National Park and Whitefish, and it's amazing. Yeah, and when I did another route, I did the northwest PNW. I went from Phoenix to Reno because I like Reno, and I went down to Lake Tahoe, and Lake Tahoe is nice. From Reno, I went up to Seattle, and from Seattle, I went over to Spokane, and then I went to Idaho to Coeur d'Alene, and then from there, I went down to Boise. You could see all those videos. Those videos are all there. But went down to Boise, and then from Boise, I went down to Salt Lake City. And then from Salt Lake City, I went to Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And then from Jackson Hole, Wyoming, I actually took an Uber from Jackson Hole to Idaho Falls. Well, if you read the book, you'll hear the story about what happened in Jackson, why I had to fly home after that. But yeah, you guys are asking for my America routes. That would be something that would be coming up right now. Is I'd probably do something that would involve an Amtrak, and when I do Amtrak, I actually get the sleeper cabins, assuming they're not too expensive. The sleeper cabin's cool because if you factor in the train ride, which would have been an airplane ride plus a hotel, because you're sleeping on the train, if you can get it for like $200 to $300, it's actually a good bargain. Yeah, I went to Jackson Hole. I got a rental car. From Jackson Hole, I went to the Grand Tetons, and I went to Yosemite, or not Yosemite, Yellowstone. So yeah, I mean, that's a trip. Just go up to Jackson Hole. Who knows? Maybe I'll do a whole vlog. I wouldn't do that vlog on the main channel here. I would do it on Island Hopper TV Travel Highlights. So if you like those kind of vlogs, go to that channel, because that's more like the Travel Highlights channel is more the OG way that I used to do it. The way I used to do videos on this channel before it kind of evolved is how I do the videos on that small channel. That's why I created it. Because those videos are more for like people who really want the authenticity. But the general public, when they watch videos, they want bing, 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 bing. Give me the things to do. Give me the things to do. Give it to me like, McDonald's, easily digestible and easily consumable. But when I do the travel highlights videos, I do it like raw and real. Like, this is really what you're going to get when you go travel. And yeah, I should start a travel. This actually, Google contacted me and told me that I can make a podcast playlist. This is actually considered a podcast. That's why I'm doing the live stream, because they told me to do a couple of these live streams because we can make it into a podcast. So that's great. Charlie says, absolutely love your videos. They're real beautiful and full of such good, cool information. Thank you. I've been to London. It's cool, but how does Paris compare in your opinion? Well, the one thing I would say is do both, because you can easily take a train from London from England underneath the English Channel into Paris, and it's a bullet train. So you can easily do both within a week. For me, I only need 3 days in London and 4 days in Paris. You give me 3 days in London and 4 days in Paris, I can get it done. And I'll feel like full. Like, I'll feel like I got my value out of it. In a lot of those European cities, I don't really need too much time. Like Amsterdam, I could do Amsterdam in 1 or 2 days. I've been to Amsterdam like 4 times, and seems like that's all I really ever want to do. The cities that I want to stay longer when I go to Europe, like Rome, Barcelona, Paris. I do stay longer in Paris. Paris is a big city. Where else do I stay a long time? Rome, Barcelona. Like Florence, you can do Florence in 1 or 2 days. You don't need to spend too much time in Florence, but Florence in Italy is beautiful. Milan, you can do Milan. I like to spend time in Switzerland. I always slow down when I get into Switzerland. Switzerland has that ability to calm me. After Germany, because Germany's chaos. You go Cologne, Frankfurt, Munich, all that crap. Oh my gosh, geez. Not crap, but Germany, I'm not a big fan of. Okay, I like Germany, but I don't know. I like Switzerland. Maybe that's why I'm always in a hurry to get out of Germany. Everyone always loves Germany. They're like, "Oh, I love Berlin. I love Germany," and I'm like, "Why? What?" Like, I could think of so many other. Like, I love Prague. Czech Republic is great. I like Poland. Poland's great. Like, you know, you can go easily Poland. Like one of the last routes that I did, because you're mentioning Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, you said, which country along the Baltic Sea is more interesting? Okay, I'll tell you the story. So I went to Iceland. From Iceland, I went to Denmark, Copenhagen. From Copenhagen, I flew to Norway. Oslo was full. They didn't have any flights. So I flew to some airport just across the way on one of those twin props. And then I took an Uber up to Oslo. Oslo was okay. Stayed 1 or 2 nights. Then I flew to Bergen. From Bergen, which is all right. One night there, is good enough for me. From Bergen, I flew to Stockholm, Sweden. They lost my luggage. I stayed in Stockholm for 3 or 4 days. I like Stockholm like that much. It's okay. I like Stockholm. It's cool. But, it's not like that much. It's not like, I love Thailand like that much. But I like, Sweden. I like Sweden more. Yeah. And so I flew. So they lost my luggage. I had to go to the store and get a new backpack. So I became a backpacker. I went from suitcasing it to backpacking, where you have one backpack on your chest and the other backpack on your front. Because I have all this camera gear, drones and all that stuff, So, well, not a lot of camera gear, but enough. And a computer, and clothes. And so they never found my suitcase. It took them 2.5 months to get it back, but I still kept traveling. I didn't fly home or give up because I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to backpack it. So I backpacked it. And from there, I went to Stockholm to Helsinki. From Helsinki, I said, okay, I'm not flying on airplanes anymore because I know once I get to mainland Europe, I can take trains. They don't have that in Scandinavia so much. But I took a ferry from Helsinki to Tallinn, Estonia, across the Baltic. That was good. I liked it. When I got to Estonia, I do like Estonia. Estonia, Tallinn is nice. I thought I could take a train. I kind of could. I took like a slow moving Amtrak, not an Amtrak, but a light rail, like a light rail train that goes from Tallinn to the border with, I think it's, what is it, Lithuania or is it Latvia? I can't remember. But I remember I crossed the border. I crossed the border on foot. You didn't even know you crossed. You're like, oh, I'm in Estonia. Oh, I'm in Latvia. Oh, like that. And I was like, 1 foot in and 1 foot out. And then I was like, okay, how do I get south from here? And I went to, I think, Riga. Yeah, I went to Riga. And then I stayed there. And then I went to Vilnius or whatever, however you say that. And I got there on a bus. So I took a taxi from the border, or I took a bus. Yeah, I took buses around there. And then when I got to Vilnius, I went to the bus depot and I got a bus that took me to Warsaw. That was a long bus ride. And it was a totally full bus. It was one of those situations where everyone's sitting, like people are sitting in the middle of the aisleway. And you don't know if someone's going to come over and be like, hey, can you get up and give the lady a seat? It's like one of those situations where, okay, you want me to stand, and you're like holding on to the side rails. But that was good. It took a long time, You'd pick people up and you drop them off. I got to Warsaw and I stayed there and I like Warsaw. And I kind of caught a train from Warsaw to Krakow. You could call it Krakow or Krakow. It's Krakow, actually. And that was a good city as well. That was one of the only cities that didn't get bombed during World War II, really too bad. So it was mostly intact with castles and stuff. Thanks to the 56 people who smashed up the likes. If you guys want me to keep going, then smash up the likes, please. And then so I went from Krakow. I caught the 5 a.m. train to Prague. 5 a.m. is way too dang early to wake up. I'm sorry, ever to catch a train. Like, oh man, that was brutal. I did it, and I got into Prague, and it was hot, hot, hot. But I love Prague, but it was hot, too hot. I was like, I had no idea Europe got that hot. And that was in July. Like July in Prague is hot. And anyway, so I went from Prague to Vienna, Austria on a train. And then from Vienna, I went to um, Slovakia, Bratislava. And I got sick there. I had to stay like 1 or 2 days because I was sick. I got the crud. And then from Bratislava, I went to Budapest, and I loved Budapest. So I was happy to be in Budapest. From Budapest, I caught the bus, a Flixbus. I wanted to go to Slovenia, but I ended up taking it down to Zagreb, Croatia. It was that was Croatia at the time was not a Schengen country, so you had to do like legit, immigration where they come on the bus and they're like, "Give me your passport stamp, okay?" And they go one by one by one. It was just so ridiculous. By the time I got to Croatia, I was getting tired, but I was still wanting to keep going. So I got to Croatia. I took a plane from Zagreb because Croatia is small, but there's like the roads are like winding through the mountains, and it would take like 8 hours to get to Split. So I just flew there. And then from Split, I went down to Dubrovnik, which is cool, the Dalmatian Islands, and explored there. And I went to like another place. I can't even remember the place. It's a beautiful countryside and coastline in Croatia, by the way. Those are cool. It's a cool place. Then I took a taxi. I got a taxi to take me from Croatia to Montenegro, and we did a land border crossing. And the guy was like getting irritated with the traffic because the line to get across the border was so long. So he's like, "I'll drop you off." And he called his friend, and his friend picked me up in Montenegro. And when I got to Montenegro, I had no idea what to expect. I didn't even know if it was safe or not because it was like, Montenegro at one point in time wasn't safe, but I went there and I was like, this is a great place. I like Montenegro. So I'd go back to Montenegro. And then when I was in Montenegro, I stayed there for like a couple days, and that was rough because they don't have much infrastructure. So I was just taking a taxi the whole time. I had to pay a taxi the whole time to go through all of Montenegro to go from like the everywhere. And when I got to one of the towns, they didn't have any hotels available. That was the one time where planning ahead didn't work out, or not planning ahead didn't work out because the whole town was sold out. So I had to go down the road a bit and like walk a long ways. And I finally found a place, and it was a great place to watch a sunset. But from there, I woke up in the morning and I took a taxi to Albania. And the taxi driver kept telling me how dangerous Albania is. And he's like, I wouldn't go there. He kept trying to say, why are you going to Albania? He's like, I hate Albania. So people from Montenegro hate Albania. And we were in line for 2 hours waiting to cross the border. And gypsies kept coming up to us trying to open our doors to get money out of us. Like there's legit, like real, like Romani gypsies all the way along that side of the border with Albania and Montenegro. And I felt bad for him because the wait for a taxi driver, is like so long. It took us like 8 hours to get there it wasn't a very long, on a map, it didn't look very long, but because of traffic, it took a long time. And we got into Albania, and he got pulled over by the Albanian police. And because he hates Albania, it was like his hatred of Albania was like attracting a negative energy. So when we got pulled over in Albania, he was talking about how dangerous it is. Next thing you know, we're being extorted by Albanian police. And I'm like, oh man, this is not good. And he kept like saying like, yeah, see, this is what they do here. And then I still talk to this guy. He like hit me up for asking me for some money because he was on hard times, but he's like a friend. He's like a friendly guy, but he's like a big Slavic, like Jokic, like Nikola Jokic. He looked like he could be Nikola Jokic's uncle. He's like a Balkan guy. They're tough over there, man. There's some tough dudes, but he took me over there and he got to the hotel, and I bought him a soda and some dinner, and I gave him the money and gave him a hug, and we stayed friends. And then I ended up kind of scared when I was in Albania. I was like, all right, the way this guy makes it sound, it's like, be careful walking around Albania and Tirana. So the next day I was like, all right, I think I'm ready to go out into the wild blue yonder. I walked around the whole city and I didn't have any problems the whole time I was there. I was just getting fed all of this information from this guy from Montenegro who just has a rivalry with them. But Tirana seems like a cool place. So I enjoyed it. From Tirana, that was when I flew down to Greece and I met my cameraman there. And that's when we made a bunch of videos. But that was a wild trip. That was a good trip. I really pushed it hard. Opinions on Belarus. I was going to go to Belarus when I was in Poland, but I didn't. Anyways, guys, it's been an hour and 35 minutes. It's been a great live stream. We can do more of these if you guys want. Thank you to everyone who smashed up the likes. Someone said, have you ever been to all the Southeast Asia? What's your least favorite? Least favorite in Southeast Asia. Maybe Cambodia or Laos. But when I say least favorite, I still like those countries and I want to go back. I'm actually going to go back to Cambodia and Laos, in particular Cambodia, probably this year. So we'll revisit that. Would you ever consider doing a walking live stream in the country you're in? Yeah, I would if I can get proper mobile data. The problem is getting the data to stream strong enough to where it can hold the live stream. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, thank you, everyone. Someone said, how are buses in Europe? Is there security like TSA? A little bit. It's not as bad, though. So thanks, everyone. And yeah, I'm out. Peace.